And hey guys, and welcome to the Garage Athlete Show. We're on episode 71, and I'm joined today by Emily Pointer and Rachel Smith. We're going to talk a little bit more about kind of female training and the kind of do's and don'ts when it kind of comes to that. I'm going to pass you guys over to Rachel, because obviously Rachel knows Emily better, as she brought her on as a guest. So Rachel, if you'd like to introduce Emily, like, how do you guys know each other?
So Emily and I are internet friends. We've never actually met. That was like pop it in
sounds so
between.
loserish.
We are internet friends. So when I was living in London, I was obviously working at gym in Lewisham, and we didn't know each other then. I think that was when you were still down in Wandsworth way as well. So we just hadn't. Yeah. We could have come across each other, but London's massive. There's 5 million personal trainers. And I think we're both very new to the sort of getting started in the industry then anyway. And we just kind of have always just randomly commented on stuff. I don't even know how we first became aware of each other. I can't remember. It's just...
I was going to say, I feel like I need to
in my life and I couldn't get rid of her.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So the reason I wanted to bring Em on is because obviously we want a bit more diversity of guests that we have on the podcast. We primarily have male followers. However, they have female partners, and we know that quite a few of them train or support or coach their partners. And I just wanted to bring a little bit more education around sort of things that maybe the female partners might not speak of, but the males may need to be aware of. Also, I'd love more fucking female listeners. You know, women have gyms in garages. This is a fact. And we do get some personal trainers listening as well. And some of the questions that we've had sort of from our Instagram followers, all 3 of them, they are quite relevant to a lot of the population, not just females. And I personally wanted to, and then Emily's well behind me on this, dispel quite a few myths and sort of what knowledge is out there in terms of how females should train, things to consider, and just sort of how she got started on the industry herself and has built an amazing space in Surrey. Like, if you live near Surrey or you can get there, you want to get there, not even just for the amazing gym, but the food, the entertainment, the space they've got, the coffee, the cats, the airplanes, Olive's wild dress sense, all the good stuff. So I'll pass over to Emily now, and she can tell you a little bit more than my ramble.
Cheers, Rachel, and thanks, Dawn, for having me on.
No worries.
I sound like I'm a poet and I don't even know it. Right, so my name's Em. I started off as On Point Training is kind of like my business name when I first started out, because my surname's Pointer. And I will be coming up to 5 years next month since I made the transition. Before then, I worked in advertising and was pretty miserable. I mean, I enjoyed it, but the stress really got to me. And a year before I quit to be a PT, I kind of just had this like light bulb moment being like, I just want to do something that makes my heart sing a little bit. And I like look forward to going to the gym in the morning or in the evening, like before and after work, and kind of thought, actually, do you know what? I'm going to become a PT. I was never very fit at school, like was shocking at cross country, never really made team sports. So kind of the gym ended up being my outlet and how I kind of got into it. So it was like, met with those family members being like, what, really? You're going to be a PT? Started off freelancing in the city and in Wandsworth or southwest London. Probably not the easiest route into PT, but having advertising helped market my business, and also just having like a good referral network from PTs that had too many clients. So that really was my luck. And then 2 years ago, I moved out to Surrey to a farm, basically just, husband's family farm. We're helping diversify here, and there's a nice big empty gym. So we're like, right, let's convert that empty barn, which I was like, right, let's convert that into a gym. So we spent a lot of time sorting that out, and that's been probably up and running since end of 2020, which then ended up being a nice lockdown. So probably since early last year. And basically my aim out here is training primarily women. I do a lot of pre and postnatal as well. So a lot of our classes are prenatal or postnatal, because in my opinion, it's taught so badly. Like if you're pregnant, everyone's like, oh, don't lift anything more than a baked bean can. And you're just like, you're going to give birth and carry a baby and also walk out of hospital. Well, hopefully you won't walk out of hospital carrying the car seat. Your other half should do that for you. But yeah, and also like pregnant, like postpartum, like you've given birth and then suddenly it's like, hey, 6-week check, off you go, do exercise, and people just go running and then they wonder why their vagina wants to fall out. So it's just about finding that balance and giving people kind of that education on exercising properly. So that's kind of what I do here. And then also basically my background is strength. Like I love lifting weights. It's really empowering and it just makes you feel great. Confidence booster, and just like so many other benefits for women as well. So I get lots of women lifting weights in like a small group PT setting, can't get my words out today. And basically by it being a female only environment, I guess there's a real big community building. There's zero judgment, and a lot more women will feel more confident to lift in here than they would in a normal gym setting, because often the weights room just feels a bit more like the testosterone zone. So yeah, that's kind of the barn in a nutshell. And then I guess, yeah, like Rachel was saying about, since obviously like farm life is really hard, farmers can't really make money since Brexit. So we've also got like a massive hangar space that we have for events. We have like pop-up restaurants, weddings, we've got coffee, we've got food trucks. We also have a helipad and a landing strip on this random farm. It's pretty strange here, but it's great. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, so I just want to move there. That'd be great. Yeah.
I think what you said about kind of like your journey into the industry, it's, as you were saying, it's not ideal, but actually that's probably the way the majority of people end up in this industry. They start in a job that they're not kind of like feeling fulfilled in. They go and do their level 3 and then they're just chucked in at the deep end of going and be a freelancer in somewhere like a pure gym or whatever it is. And you're just kind of like dropped on the gym floor with this new business that you're not taught how to market or any of those business skills. And you're just like, right, yeah, you're going to work for free for this company for 14 hours a week so that they don't have to pay somebody else minimum wage to do all that stuff. And then you only get paid if you then spend 15 hours a week researching like how to actually run a business while trying to also run a business and put food on the table. So I think what you were saying about it's not the ideal way, but it's the way a lot of people kind of land in this industry. So how did you go from just like your general like level 3 to going, you know what, I can spot that pre and postnatal is being taught pretty poorly? Like, where did that specialization kind of come in, and what made you want to go into that area?
So I think being the age, so like when I started 5 years ago, so I've been like 27, a lot of women were getting married at the time, so a lot of my clients end up getting married, and then quite often after that they'll suddenly be like, oh, I'm pregnant, and you'll just be like, shit, I'll have to pass you over to someone now. So it was kind of like initially a business decision, just being like, it makes sense to be able to continue training my clients. And then once I kind of learned more about it, after I did the course, I was like, oh my God, women are so underserved in this like sector. Like you go to classes and like you'll see like a group exercise class at say Nuffield Health or something. I guess no one gym is good or worse than the other, I guess. But like quite often you'll see 50-year-old ladies being made to do star jumps, and you're just like, why that shouldn't happen? Like just but for no fault of the own, but like the trainer just has no concept that women are actually very, very different anatomically to men, and giving star jumps to a 50-year-old lady probably isn't the best idea in a warm-up. So it's just that kind of just made me think, actually, I really want to pursue this area. And I also just found it really fascinating. And like, pregnancy is such a crazy time because your whole body is changing. So like, women, thanks to diet culture, make ourselves as small as possible, and like, exercise is to just make ourselves fit into these like small boxes. And then you spend so long trying to control your body, which hopefully is changing now, but unfortunately, like, that is still a general thing. And then suddenly you get pregnant and you're like, you have to just go with it, and you have to accept all these bodily changes. You don't know how your body's going to change because your body is now home to something else, and you're kind of so, and also it's a time where there's so much misinformation out there that people suddenly think, shit, I can't do anything. Like, the amount of women that have come to classes and being like, I can lift weights at like 38 weeks pregnant. I'm like, yeah. Like, I've had one lady she was deadlifting up to about 42 weeks, and then she only didn't come to class because she was just like, I'm just knackered. So it's just teaching people that actually you can carry on training and feel good throughout pregnancy. And then on the other side, it's just like,
I was going to say, if you think about it, when people were hunter-gatherers, you couldn't just have mum sat out to the side just for like, what's that, 9-10 months of the year? No, I'm pregnant, I can't do anything. Like, the rest of the tribe's gonna have to sort this one out. But as you said, there's a lot of misinformation out there about what people can and can't do while they are pregnant.
And I guess it's also just, it helps with confidence, and also it helps for a better pregnancy. It's better for the baby as well, in terms of like blood flow, circulation. It helps with, like, by staying strong as well. It will just help ward off too many aches and pains, and it just helps set you up for a better recovery. They say it reduces complications when it comes to birth. So just so many different things. But that's why I kind of just felt quite passionate about it, I guess.
Yeah, then Em's obviously gone through that more recently herself with the amazing Olive arriving. How has that changed things for how you coach women? Because obviously before that, so in the same respect, like, you learn and you experience in your own body, but you don't have the actual lived experience to know what that feels like. You're coaching off feedback, whereas now you're coaching from experience.
Do you know what? I was so so it was my pelvic floor, I thought, would have been ruined. Luckily, prep helped. But I was very conscious of the recovery, because just being in the industry, being like working in the specialism that I work in, I thought, right, I need to rest as much. But like a week later, I went for my first walk for like half an hour, and I was exhausted. Like, standing for like 10 minutes, you just feel so drained because your body's been through so much. And I thought, you know what, by 6 weeks, I'll be back out there lifting weights. And although like you need to build up, I thought I'd be in a stronger position than I was. But obviously, like, you're not sleeping that much, so recovery just drops completely. You're looking after another human, you're probably not eating as well as you should. Like, all those different factors come into place. And now I totally get what it is to feel completely exhausted from parenting and being up like every hour. And just know that everyone's journey is completely different. And then also in pregnancy, like, the first trimester is horrendous. Like, you'll just feel like your bones are just hollowed out with tiredness. It's just weird. So it's just that. But then also it's taught me that women are so fucking strong. Like, childbirth is just, it's crazy how the body works to actually grow a human and push it out. And like, the fact that women can actually cope with that, it's just mind-blowing. Like, it still blows my mind, and it just makes you think, we're so much stronger than we think. So I guess actually having given birth, it makes you realise that your upper limit, you're a bit more aware of your upper limit when it comes to like pushing yourself, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like a lot of women that I've coached just said, do you know what, when I've got back into training, it's taken them like a good few years, because I'm like, when did you start to feel like normal? And this doesn't mean like pre-baby normal, but like yourself. And they're like,
oh yeah,
good couple of years. Yet this expectation is there, like, oh, 6-week check, back to training, back to running. In my NHS work, I'm having to sort of make up for the fact that there's been no physio support on the wards. People are being discharged, 6-week check, and they go running. And that's when they end up back in our service, because they just didn't, the support and the knowledge isn't there to help them. And I'm like, this is basic levels of care. If somebody's broken their arm, then we provide care, we provide follow-up, we provide information. And you wouldn't think, oh, something's literally just fallen out of a limb like 6 weeks ago. It's all right to do everything I used to do with that because somebody said I'm okay. And it's a case of, they might have said you are okay, as in you don't have any ongoing infection, any prolonged issues sort of heart health wise, or anything to do with sort of just your general state. But that doesn't mean that you're ready to go back to being the superhuman person that you are and work. Like, your body just needs its downtime. But it's hard because you were juggling already. Now you're juggling even more with this added pressure and expectation of, well, she's gone out and done that, she's doing that, why can't I? And a lot of what I do is manage an expectation, which is really fucking hard, because people want and they feel like they need to be back somewhere. I just get really frustrated with it all. And I think sort of when I've spoken with clients myself, or coached women in gyms as well, if they haven't had that education or support from maybe a partner or someone who they've trained with previously, who has got the training program, they help them with it, they get frustrated because they're like, I'm being told to do this and I want to, but I just can't. And they can't really explain why. But you put into account all these factors of sleep, nutrition, just general recovering from having grown a human. And it's a case of, you're just not ready for it yet. You will be, but we've got to get you back there as and when the time is right for you. So that was my rant for the day. There we go.
But it's ridiculous. Like, if people have an abdominal birth, like, it's just like, you've just gone through like gastric surgery, essentially. If you were to have like gastric surgery, you would have this whole, like, you need to rest for like 6 to 8 weeks, and you need to do this and do that, and this is your rehab program. Whereas it's like, oh, you've had a cesarean, off you go, bye-bye. And it's like, what the actual fuck? Like, it drives me crazy how there's a real, because I feel, I mean, you can't, like, there's such a disconnect because you're female and you've done pregnancy and given birth, and that's like a normal thing. Whereas if it was like abdominal surgery, like, because that can also be related to a man, sometimes it's just like, actually, you know, that's a bit more special. Like, the postpartum treatment for and information for women is just shocking. Like, one of my friends asked her GP for a referral for a pelvic health check after having given birth, or she called it a postnatal check. And the GP was like, I've never heard of it, that no such thing exists. He was like, I've been a GP for 35 years. And you're just like,
what? And then we wonder why females don't know about these services. Like, I've had a client 2 weeks ago, post-hysterectomy. She is 64. And she was like, I didn't know about you. Where have you been? And I'm like, this is it. It's underfunding of a service, which is crucial to support all aspects of a female's life, from sort of puberty through to menopause. Like, there's such a need for a service which is so under-resourced, so under-known about. And then the results that people get, and they're like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Why didn't I know about this when I'd had kids? Why has no one told me? And this is the big thing, that there is help there, but often you'll get past pillar to post as a female, not always feels like you've been supported or heard. And in the end of it, you just go, I'll just have to get on with it. Like, I don't have the money to go privately, but well, what else do I do? I'll watch a YouTube video, or I'll read something, which isn't always the best for them as well. So in summary, like we hear these stories. Don, I'd imagine, obviously Natalie's been through things herself. Obviously friends, family members, everyone's got their own story, especially when it comes to birth. And it's the validation of that and the signpost. And I think everybody needs to be more aware of, like, if someone says something that relates to bladder or bowel or sexual function or not being able to perform certain activities because of health reasons that are related to birth or postnatally, we need to be helping these people. And that's not just us as coaches, it's us as friends, as partners, people who are knowledgeable and can direct somebody to something that can help them, but they just don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, you need to change the conversation around, like, everyone always says, oh, but I'm meant to wet myself and can't go on a trampoline now because I've had a baby. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, that's actually a muscle not working properly. It's just...
The best one Rachel gets is they're meant to piss themselves when they're on a deadlifting platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your pet peeve, isn't it, Rach?
It's like,
pet peeve. Yeah, no pun intended. Huge one. But this happens everywhere though, and it's a re-education. But as we all know, level 2 and level 3, fitness instructor, personal trainer, pelvic floor as a muscle group is not provided in any form of education, despite us training core strength, lower body. Breathing's not even like considered within that as well. We've got people who are in position of health support, and that doesn't just mean fat loss. It doesn't just mean muscle gain. It means quality of health.
Yeah.
And there does, in my eyes, still need to be huge change in the industry for things to become more health first, as opposed to strength comes over everything, fat loss comes over everything. Because I don't know about you, but if I lost half my body weight and started to piss myself, I'd be really pissed off.
Quite literally.
Do you know what I mean? Like, things can happen together, but they need to be considered together as well.
Yeah, it is. I had a really bad cough for like 10 weeks. It wasn't COVID, but like, and that just completely screwed with my pelvic floor. And I got to the point where I'd actually just pissed myself, and I was literally like, oh my God. And it's the most demoralizing thing ever. And like, it was, my pelvic floor is the worst it's ever been. Like, even after having childbirth, I was like, what is going wrong? So yeah, but like, having the knowledge, I'd know, like, actually, this is how I retrain it. If I was working out, I'd like just completely regress everything. But like, then I thought, this is some people's normal. Like, it's just mind blowing. But no, level 2, level 3, like, it's just, I guess it's the basics. But there's things in there, like, if you're pregnant, you're not allowed to press the weight over your head. I'm like, what?
Yeah, like, how far behind is everything that still being educated on? There needs to be a huge reform on so many things, using new evidence, new knowledge, instead of people who are in charge of postnatal females, irrespective of when they've had kids. When you've had children, you've had children. And if these things aren't taken care of and supported, then they're going to crop up later on. Like, they're going to. You're very fortunate if they don't, but normally it comes from avoiding doing something.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, most women are going to be, I'd say the majority of them are probably going to be pre or postnatal once you hit the 25 plus age bracket. As you said, like, just because you had a kid a year ago, that doesn't mean you're any less postnatal now. Like, there's still going to have been major physiological, sometimes anatomical changes that happen because of the hormones and things that are in there. And I think you guys are completely right. Like, it should be being, at least the basics should be being taught at any level. Like, it's one of those things, I haven't looked into it personally, but I can imagine the basics and the up-to-date information could quite easily be slotted in as a module within your level 2, or even your level 3 and maximum, like a minimum, sorry. And it's probably just one of those things that, like, the people at the top are going to be men. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It's a £1 billion industry now, churning out personal trainers. Like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I saw a level 2 and level 3 combined course the other day for like £600. Like, that, it's one of those things. I'm pretty sure you need a license in this country to cut people's hair, but anybody can pay 600 quid and go and do a 6-week course that's all online now because of thanks to COVID. And you go and do an assessment day, right? Yeah, perfect. You're ticked off and you can be let loose on the public now. Like, you can seriously hurt people as a personal trainer if you're not doing it well. If you can't, you put somebody's body weight on their back and get them to squat it, and you don't know how to teach that form properly, like, you can cause lasting damage. And I think it's one of the things. Is that going to change? I think there's too much money involved for it to change. And it's what do you do? I think I get it all the time when I'm speaking to people now, and they're talking about basically like why they don't believe in training, they don't believe in coaching, and 9 times out of 10 it's because either they or someone they know has had a bad experience with an inexperienced trainer. And so it makes it harder for the rest of us then to go, you know what, that's not me. I've got 5 years experience like Emily. I've been in this industry for 10 years. Like, I'm not here just to take your money and then leave you to it. Like, if we've been in it for this long, we genuinely care and we want to kind of get results. And yes, sometimes we have to sell you what you want and give you what you need. But I can guarantee, Rachel, you've probably had people come into your program that have gone, yeah, I want to lose weight. And you've gone, okay, we can do that, but I also want you to do this, this, and this, where I'm going to be helping you get that holistic side to the program. It's not just going to be calories in versus calories out. We're going to do this, this, and this as well. If you don't want to do that, like that, I'm not the right coach for you.
Yeah, so it all comes down to your morals, your integrity, and what you believe is right, and being the change within an industry which is heavily saturated by potentially not people putting the health of the clients first. But did something, was it last year, the year before, like whichever year, I don't know, everything merges, where you had an intern with you, didn't you?
A mentor.
Or had you started that up?
Well, I had a mentor, mentee.
Yeah, you're the mentor. Yeah.
A mentee. And I just, I don't know if I'd asked you about it, but it was just such a good idea. I think we chatted about it because we were like, well, what does this need to look like? Because what would somebody who wants to learn more than level 2, level 3, or going into the industry, or specialism in pre and postnatal, what do they need that I didn't find out? And it's passing on a book of knowledge which is enhanced, as in leaving positive change elsewhere. So what did that look like?
I mean, it was basically just because, like, when I started out, I remember because the gym that I worked in was predominantly male, and I was like, what is a career aspiration for a female? Like, where do you go? What's beyond just a PT? Like, not just a PT, but you know what I mean? Like, where can you grow to? And well, like an example of a successful female in the industry, and back then they were like, don't know, and I was actually just like, you're just like, okay, great. And then now there are so many women who are like trailblazing in like the fitness industry. Like, it's amazing to look at. And I just thought, right, I want to give back to someone else. So yeah, I put out for a mentor, being a mentor for someone. And mostly that was more around growing her business. So like she'd done her borough education, like qualification, so for pre and postnatal, but she was in a pure gym and just wanted to kind of like grow, but she just was just stuck in this kind of like, didn't specialize in anything or couldn't quite communicate. So we just worked on getting her specialism out there. And now I think she's left, now has her own studio in her home that she was using a bit, but now fully uses that. She's got like her own mum program as well. So she like postnatal rehab, and it's just, and like her content's changed, so it was kind of more based around that and just kind of communicating around that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I just thought that was so good, because things like this don't exist, so you've got to create them. I'd started to do some workshops for coaches last year, which was just about enhancing their knowledge on the people who are in front of them without them needing to specialize in it. Because if the content of these courses is never going to change, then the people who have more knowledge, like, we need to make the industry level up by giving back or putting in what is missing from it, purely just so that everyone receives a better service than they're already receiving. And I'll always say to someone, look at the reviews that your coach has got, speak to people, don't just take it as sort of written reviews. Are they sharing education? Are they sharing knowledge, or is it literally just a feed of photos of themselves with quotes? What do they offer beyond a program? What do they offer beyond that 1 hour coaching session? What CPD have they done? Like, I want to know that the person I'm working with and paying money to knows more about something than another coach. Like, there has to be a real reason. I've worked with different coaches for different reasons, based on sort of my rehab in the past as well. And I think that's a biggie, like looking at where you're investing your money. And even if it is online coaching you're receiving, like, what do you need from that? Like, do you just need a program or a check-in, or do you need like video calls with education, troubleshooting? Like, there's not a one size fits all. And that's a big thing of, there are things out there for you, but it's just finding them as well. And that goes for anybody training out of their home gym too. Like, you might have an online program, but if you're not getting the results because you've got pain, you've got lower back niggles, you've got injuries going on, you're not progressing, like, look beyond the program that you've got and look to invest in that health side of things as well.
Yeah, it's really, I think having a good referral network is really important. Like, I've got a good selection of like pelvic health physios that I work with. So if anyone comes to me, even during pregnancy or like postpartum, if they, quite often they wouldn't have heard about a pelvic health check. They're like, what, someone who looks at your pelvic floor and like actually shoves their fingers up inside you? I'm like, yes. Like, that's the thing. Yes. And it is worth every penny, because like you wouldn't break a leg and not see a physio afterwards. So just having a good like network of people to go to is really important, and it kind of just adds to your business as well.
Oh, hugely, because then they'll refer people on to you, etc. Things like that.
Exactly.
So hopefully by sort of diversifying who we're getting on the podcast, is just adding a little bit more to general awareness as well. As I said, people might not be females listening, but you've got partners, and if they've mentioned anything, there might be, this might kind of set the ball rolling for you, or at least having a look at the content that both Emily and I put out on sort of female specific things. Shall we? I don't think you put this in the group, so we don't have any questions there. But Emma, have you got the questions written down that was sent through?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of questions. Well, yeah, some of my questions. I mean, actually, one thing I was going to say about as well is like why women are different to men. Like, I remember one fact that really stuck in my head is that female bone density stops increasing after 30. And you're just like, what? I think I learned that at like age 29. So I was like, I've got a year left. I
didn't start training until I was like 31. And I was like, fuck, I've missed the mark. What am I going to do? But this is a big thing. A lot of women will go, right, well, there's no point doing it now as well because of this fact, instead of the education around the fact.
Yeah. And I was just like, shit. So then you think, oh my God, it's really important to strength train in your 20s. And then obviously beyond. So now, like, the main fact, people come up to me like, why should I lift weights as a woman? I'm like, well, so you don't get osteoporosis. That is like my number one thing, because especially like once it starts declining, once you're like 30s onwards, and then you hit menopause and it just drops off the edge of a cliff, and you're like, that in itself is your reason to train. So like, I'm looking at like my next course I'm going to go into is more about menopause for my like CPD, but like I'm just like, that is reason enough to train. But it is really interesting learning the differences between men and women, and that we're not just small men when it comes to training. Like, yes, our skeleton is smaller, but actually there are so many things that are different.
I think one of the big things is the recovery rate as well. And this comes down to, like, when I've got clients who might train with their partners as well, and they're like, the partners need like the 5 minutes, and they're like, I'm done after 2. And I'm like, yeah, because that your muscles are different. Like, the fast and slow twitch fibers you've got in your body are very different. You recover very different. But when it comes to certain times around your menstrual cycle, your recoveries could be, not definitely, could be impaired. So you can't always go in and be doing the same thing and have that level of expectation on you, because physiologically you're different day to day, and certainly sort of week to week as well, hormonally, and then across our life phases as well. Like, we're complicated, and this is why a lot of men, Donald, isn't it, have more male clients than female, because fucking hell, the amount of CPD we do, the amount of reading, the amount of trial and error on our own bodies to be good coach for females that know more about ourselves. Like, we are like projects. We've got to try these things out to understand them.
And also, you don't know what mood you're going to get walking through that door if you've got a female client. But no, it is crazy, like, how, I mean, like, most research is around ACL injury when it comes to female athletes. Like, it, because I think it's like, I can't remember the fact, but like, I think you're 25% more likely to have an ACL injury if you're female, or something like that.
And it's during
the second final half of your menstrual stuff. It is.
But that's pretty much where, like, the investment in research has been. It's like, right, we know that, can we move on, please? Because let's put some more money into it. It's like, oh, women are difficult because the hormone profiles change. And it's like, yeah, but you can use that, you know, this fact. So just research then. Like, it's more, yes, there are more variables to consider, but unless it's researched, you're never ever going to know. And we just get more frustrated because the funding is there in research and we're not finding anything more about ourselves that are helping us sort of grow as females.
Yeah, which kind of leads me into one of the questions. She said how to train around menstruation, but I'm guessing she might have meant menstrual cycle. I mean, but you can kind of answer both. So, I mean, I guess if we're talking about menstruation, it's literally how you're feeling. Technically, from day one of your menstrual cycle, you should be feeling pretty strong and powerful. But I guess it hits everyone in different ways. But yeah, I mean, that is your strongest time of the month, where you can literally work on power, you can work on strength gains, you can do like high intense training, probably like for the first up to like probably day 12. I don't know what your thoughts are, Rachel.
Yeah, so it's just finding out sort of when, you've got to keep track of it, but it's like when your ovulation is now, depending on how heavy your bleed is, that can depend on sort of what your energy levels are like. Some people are fine, some people actually have another boost in energy sort of when we've got the change in estrogen, progesterone halfway through the second half of the cycle as well. But again, it's just knowing and tracking, like, how do I feel? Yeah. The difficulty with this is as well, we're females, like, life happens, and you've got to take into account, like, is your mood or how you feel recovery-wise affected by your sleep, by nutrition, whatever. So keeping as many of those variables, the controllable variables, the same, makes it a lot easier to track as well.
Yeah.
And then
throw into the mix, though, a 3-year-old that doesn't sleep.
Ooh. There you go. Exactly. Then we go to sort of the second half, which is, and I hate this, right, massive rant, bugbear time. Stop spending money on people's projects or handouts or whatever's on, this is how to train around your cycle, or this is for you. Do they even know who you are? They don't know who you are. So why are you letting somebody who's created a document tell you what to do with your body ever, let alone at different times of your monthly cycle? Like, it's useful information to consider, but imagine if we believed everything we read. Or this says that today I need to do yoga and drink herbal tea. So I feel really up for going to the gym. Do you know what? Like, had really good sleep, everything's been going well, but because this piece of paper says that I shouldn't, then I'm not going to do it. No, I'm just going to sit in the corner for a bit. Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, no, everyone is really different. Like I say, around ovulation, so it tends to be around about day 12, 14 of your cycle if you've got a regular cycle. Like, you can either feel on top of the world, or you can just feel like super low. Like, it depends from person to person. For me, I literally cannot get out of bed. Like, so yeah, it really is very dependent, and everyone just feels influenced differently. Everyone has different hormone profiles, but I guess rule of thumb is early stage of your pregnancy, of your period, menstrual cycle is kind of like your strong phase, and I guess the latter half is kind of just see how you feel, rest as and when you need to. Like, I guess the main thing is.
You continue.
I was going to say, like, the main thing is just like your basal. It's just being aware that like your basal body temperature is a little bit higher in your second half of your menstrual cycle, so you feel exhausted more, and I guess your blood gets a little bit thicker as well, so you get less oxygen getting to you, so you feel a bit more out of breath, and just less feel less great.
Yeah. When it comes to that, you can still have your training program that you follow.
Yeah.
It's just really useful to have potentially maybe like separated into 2-week blocks, or could be even like 4-week blocks, and you compare your week 1, week 2, week 2, etc. This, people think, oh shit, I'm not going to get anywhere with this, but it's just a case of clever programming. So if you look to progressively overload in your stronger weeks, then you can still progress, but potentially with a little bit more volume, less weight, or you go higher weight, less volume. You've got to find out what works for you. When it comes to CV fitness, you can push a bit harder, because generally you're going to be able to use oxygen a little bit more efficiently at the start, but then whack in your steady state for just good heart health when things are a little bit heavier, to feel harder, because once you get moving, you generally feel better anyway. But you've just got to know your own body, and keeping a paper log of stuff instead of like an app. Like, I really hate having apps, because I feel like, again, they put you into this box, unless it's an app where you can move things around, manage it, record it to match your cycles. Like, I had to look into creating one of this myself, and I was like, I'm team pen and paper. Like, I'm old school. And I just find it works better, because I get clients journaling things, and I'm like, before you go to bed, just write down like a win for the day. Before you do this, just checking on your breathing. And it forces them to kind of have that in front of them, because having a screen, which is pretty much what people are glued to constantly, takes the person out of something quite personal, and something which is very, it is very personal when it comes to training, but especially sort of the emotion side of it as well. So it's just about knowing yourself, and not expecting to know that after a month. If you're new to tracking, keeping track of how much sleep you're having, your mood during the day, any cramp sensations, like any period type sensations, because that can affect things such as, okay, well, on like day 2, my bleed, I feel horrific in these clothes. Don't put them on then. Like, if putting a pair of jeans on makes you feel shit, don't put them on, because there's no point in it. It's just using what you know about your body and yourself to anticipate changes. So it's not like, shit, this didn't happen. Flip back through your journal. Yeah, it did. Flip back. Yeah, it did. It's just that we don't hold much in our memories, because so much happens.
Yeah. Awareness really helps. But yeah, I think that was one question, and then another question was other ways to highlight progress other than focusing on aesthetics. Like, she hates before and after pictures. She actually comes to the gym here, so she's exactly like what we're about here, because it's my thing here is exercise is for life, not just for like after Christmas, because like it is about moving better, being able to get up from a toilet when you're like 80 and all that kind of stuff. So I guess on that one thing, because you do often get like clients or people that are like, I'm not losing weight, and you're just like, yeah, but how are your clothes fitting? Obviously that's aesthetic based, but again, it's also like, how are you feeling, like energy levels, your lifts going up? And also quite often they would have just been exercising for like 4 weeks, when actually the change will take a little bit longer than that. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that one as well.
Dan and I ran a couple of challenges in the home gym group, and as part of that we encourage people to submit before and after photos, midpoint photos, just as another unit of like data measurement, data tracking really. We've had a few, and it is always females who don't want to submit their photos, and sometimes I'll say just send it to me and delete it, like you don't have to see it. But it's for me to help point out the changes that they don't see in themselves, because females are so critical. And I always force people to give me a win about anything. Because if you say, oh, how's it gone? The first thing is negative this, negative that didn't go well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. Just to put into perspective, sort of from the NHS work I was doing last week, I've got a patient who just started out, only 1 week and had quite a traumatic birth. We'd gone through different strategies for things, and I'd spoke to her on the phone, how's this week been? Like a plethora of bad things still. And then I went, oh, how did this work? When we're trying this technique for picking your baby out of her cot. She's like, yeah, I don't wet myself anymore. And I was like, there's your win right there. There is your big fat win. I don't care about anything else. Take that win, because that is actually something pretty life-changing. And it's focusing on the life things that matter beyond our bag of skin and bones. Like who you are as a person, what you do, what you achieve, what you can just physically lift in the gym gives so much more than aesthetics. And I find that when people, it's part of the process again, when people buy into it, when you show them what they're capable of, they give less of a shit about what that number stays on the scale and what they actually look like, because they learn to love who they are and just what they're about.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of the girls in my class the other day. She was like, yeah, the online food delivery came the other day, and rather than carrying just 2 bags, she's like, I carried 5 in each hand. And she was like, and they were like full of like wine and cans and everything. She's like, that is why I come to this class, because I'm getting strong to be able to do stuff like that. And I was like, yes, you are.
Is that the one trip from the car thing? Because with men, we can only do 1 trip from the car.
Like you're
not allowed to, you can have 10 on each arm. It's like, I'm doing it in 1. But to kind of go back to the question, I think it's one of those things in terms of measuring progress. It's just remembering that all those things are just data. They're just metrics. They're not your value as a person. Is not your before and after photo. Your value as a person is not the weight on the scale. It's not the number of steps that you do. It's not the amount of water that you drink. These are all just bits of data that we as coaches look at to go, right, what things can we tweak? What variables can we control? And what can we do to help tip that energy balance equation into where we kind of like want it to be? That's going to be manageable for your life. Like a good coach is not just, right, you're a person, your energy in versus energy out. Like that's the very, very basics of it. Like learning, right, you've got 2 kids at home, you're going to struggle to get out and do 12,000 steps a day because they're both under 3 and it's winter. What can you do instead that's going to help you with that activity? Maybe it's getting a activity watch rather than relying on your phone, because actually through the day you're pottering around the house, like tidying and doing all these things, and then you go, look, your activity is actually quite high, you just weren't tracking it before. So it's just remembering that all these things are data. And that's it. Like learning, it's hard, but taking the emotional attachment to the result and learning to love the journey itself. And that means the result takes care of itself. When you learn to love the day-to-day, rather than just waiting for something that's going to happen in 12 weeks, 90 days, a year's time, actually fall in love with the process, fall in love with finding about who you are, what you are physically capable of, would be the best bit of advice I could give.
Yeah. Because also, I guess, if you have like your fixed number in your head, or like, that is my goal, once you reach that, it's like, right, is your exercise journey over then? No. Like,
well, I think about how many times you've started out with a client, right, I want to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And they lose it. And suddenly they stop showing up, or they stop doing their check-ins, or whatever it is. And it's because they've set themselves a very, that's just that one goal, rather than I want to be a fitter, healthier, stronger mum. That's an ongoing process that you'll probably never get to. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you,
They're like very arbitrary things, but they're still things that are very present in society. Like, I always had a number on the scale I wanted to hit. And it's only when you spend time doing things that you like, that's just, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it literally could be anything. Could be 40, you weigh the same as 45 bricks. Nice one. Like, what does that tell me about me? Like, literally nothing. But it's still really hard to detach people from it. I think until like slimming clubs and things like that would never exist, but that they're not going to go away. That this is always something that we're going to have.
You've opened up a can of worms there, right?
This was me. My mum would go to Weight Watchers at the community centre, go to the chip shop after, because that didn't matter.
After starving herself beforehand, hadn't eaten anything up to that point, and then just get a massive tea after you weigh in.
Exactly, chippy tea after you weigh in, of course. But this is what we still see. Instagram is still heavily populated with Weight Watchers posts, Slimming World, people following people. And I think a lot of that has changed still, but it hasn't changed the mindset. And you've got people going getting weighed in -1 pound this week, plus 2.5. And I'm like, if you had a poo today, did you have 3 glasses of water? Like, what way's the wind blowing? Like, this is arbitrary shit that tells us nothing about you. And like, it's just, it creates such negativity with food and everything. I've been there myself. That was me. And this is why I'm very much anti any of that. But it's very important for me to know that if somebody has had all of that in their life, what I might need to bear in mind for how I approach nutrition dialogue with them, or their narrative around food or relationships with food.
Best one I've had recently is a girl came to train with me probably August, September time, had done Herbalife and had spent like £400 on Herbalife supplements.
I fucking hate that stuff.
And then I just got her to send me a screenshot of the thing. I was like, well, it's mostly soy protein. Why is there 60 odd ingredients in a protein shake? Like, you don't, what even is half this stuff? But anyways, she wasn't that well adapted to training wise. She started on a very, very basic weight training program, and we were losing consistently £1 or £2 a week for about 12 weeks. So I think she lost about, I think it was 15 pounds, just over a stone, which for a female is really, really good within my program. They don't normally lose it that well. But then she started to kind of plateau off, stopped doing her check-ins, and then I saw recently she posted on her social media, she'd gone back to Herbalife. I've dropped £6 in a week. I'm feeling so much better. I'm just like, oh my God, like, that's all water and inflammation from you binge eating at Christmas. And that's not going to be sustainable. You're filling your body full of crap because you're drinking 2 protein shakes a day and having 1 meal. Of course you've dropped £6. You're on about 800 calories. But it's the social media things. That's the sort of things that people want a quick fix, and they want yes, that person, I've managed to drop a stone in a month. Amazing. Yeah, but what happens when you stop? Where does all that weight come back on?
The diet after the diet, isn't it?
Exactly.
So you'll see a lot of that, because that's pretty much what you're around and what you're having to re-educate on, isn't it?
Yeah, I posted about the barn, which is our gym here, in like a local Facebook group the other day, and the local Slimming World rep was like, oh, we should partner up, because I've got loads of people who had I'm like, no, you're not going anywhere near. Publicly, I was like, you are not coming anywhere near my people here. They value their health for more than just like the number. I can't remember. I literally just went off on one of her. Because that's the thing, like your body, your weight fluctuates so much depending on sleep, time of the month, like all those different things. And it's just shaming you. Like you step on those scales and it's like, oh, you haven't lost any weight this week. And it's just like, oh.
Yeah, but let's give a big round of applause to Sheila, who's lost half her body weight in a week, looks like she's dying in the corner.
Yeah.
Like,
I just hate.
Definitely had diuretics before the meeting.
Yeah.
It's going out for GPT after. Yeah.
That's the thing. I just hate how these like diet products just prey on women's insecurities, because like, yes, it is probably, it's still a male issue as well, but it's just such a female issue. And like Booty, Herbalife, Juice Plus. I mean, I used to take that shitty tea like when I was young, because like one of the girls in the office was taking it, and I was like, she's like, oh yeah, this is really good. And you're just like basically taking laxatives in tea form. I'm just like, why is this a thing? But you do it because you think
have
to
you
lose
seen
weight,
that they're changing the law about what influencers are allowed to post? So I think it's just passed, it's somewhere in Europe. Basically, they're changing the law now, as in, like, if you edit your photos or if you are financially incentivized to promote a product, you have to be open and honest about it. Like, and if you don't, you can be you can be sued.
Like, disclaimer, this might make you shit your pants. Like,
pretty
what else
much,
can you put?
That's good. Yeah, because like I think, is it Lauren Goodyear, one of the girls was telling me about, who was on Towie. She got pregnant at 8 weeks postpartum, and she was promoting like some slimming products literally when she would have been pregnant, and you're just like, no. But it's just
she managed to get pregnant 8 weeks after giving birth. My partner would not let me touch her for like a minimum of 90 days. Pardon? No, that's what I'm saying. Like, who's
breathe in the same room as me?
I'm not I'm not being funny. Like, baby's not sleeping. Everything down there seems to be a no-go zone. Like, how is something? Oh, I don't.
I mean,
that's yeah. That's how's the body even going to be recovered to be able to manage to?
That's the thing. Rehabbing while, pregnant.
Well, then it's gearing up to do it again.
Her body's just not been given a chance to recover, and I think this is part of the education as well. Like, if you ran a marathon and towards the end of the marathon you like tore your hamstring, 8 weeks later, would you think, do you know what, I'm going to get back into training for that marathon? I haven't done anything to sort my leg out, but I'm just going to, put my body back through it. It's the equivalent of that. And it's when you explain it in terms like that, people are like, no, it's not. But it's because of the lack of education on the fact that it's a muscle group which is constantly working, unless you're kind of offloading it on your back and there's no, it's like anti-gravity. But the rest of the time, and then just a connection to the rest of the body. Organs still being displaced months, especially if you've had a big baby, no sensation up in part of the diaphragm or ribs because of a foot being there for 6 months. We like one of my best friends, like it took her 9 months after her baby being born, so like for over a year she had no sensation in part of her body because his foot was just jammed, and she was like, fucking hell, I can't breathe. But and this is just the reality of it. Like, it's nuts. But so just going back to sort of the questions that we had when we're talking about sort of the nutrition side of things, like looking at a way of like moving away from aesthetics. It's part of the process, isn't it? And nutrition in our dialogue to ourselves and about ourselves comes into play, and a lot of maturity does with it as well. Like, I know you'll both agree, like, you're a very different person now to how you were when you were younger, and also when you started out in this industry. Like, I'm not a big fan of sort of having my face on camera and this, that, and the other, but that's more me. But I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. If we don't speak out about and help people with things that other people are putting the wrong information out about or not helping with, then we're not really doing our job within this industry very well, are we?
No. Like, I think a lot of women can't, like, I remember I used to think to be a PT I had to fit in a certain physique, and I'd literally punish myself, eat nothing, and would never like look like that. And now clients come to me and they're like, I really like you as a PT, and I feel like I want you because you don't look like a normal PT. Like,
you look like a normal human, like an average.
Like, you're not shredded. I'm like,
I was going to say, you're not jacked, you've not got abs, and you're not posting booty pics, so you're clearly not a personal trainer.
But this is the problem. Our following will never grow because we're not like
come on, Rach, you need to get your bum out. Like, that's just clearly what you've got to do.
Yeah. But it is.
I saw that face. That's the reaction I was hoping for.
No, for any people just listening, not watching, I did not flash my arse then.
But yeah, it is. But then actually, I'm just like, yeah, because exercise is just so you can feel healthy, and in like it's, yeah. My mindset now is very much around like exercise is for your mind, your mental health, for your mental health, to like lessen any aches and pains, and just to move well in life. Like, I don't want to like struggle to bend over to pick up my child. Like, it's just actually for moving well, and also like boosting confidence, and like I was saying earlier, like bone density. So yeah, because I went through, like, before I got married, everyone was like, oh, you're a personal trainer, you're going to lose loads of weight for your big day. And I was actually just like, what? And like, you go and try on wedding dresses and they'd be like, so what size are you going to be on your wedding day? And you just be like, what?
Yeah, but I bet your husband didn't get that.
No,
like,
I mean,
completely different standards and language and expectation.
Yeah, and so I ended up getting like an online, like a bodybuilder giving me like a nutrition plan online. So like I did all that. I remember having to take progress pictures, and I put it off for about a month. I hated it. And I look back at the pictures now, I'm like, what was I hating on? But like, I just remember, because I was so screwed up in my head, what I was seeing wasn't, I just was never happy with. So yeah, that's, so I guess
this is me about to start my 4-week mini cut where I'm going to drop like 6 kilos in 4 weeks because bodybuilding.
But yeah, it's just like before and after pictures for me are so triggering. As aesthetic, stepping onto scales, I've not weighed myself since my wedding day. And like because one of the things is when you get pregnant, they're like, right, how much are you going to weigh? And I'm just like, no. I just said to the midwife, I was like, I'm not being weighed at all. Part of me was intrigued to weigh myself before, as I was in labour, just step on the scales and then weigh myself afterwards just to see. But then I was like,
hang on a minute, everyone, just wait a minute, get the scales out.
But then I was like, actually, it's not even worth it. So yeah, I'm very much like how I feel, how I'm lifting, and also now like my mindset around training. I've just got to do what I can because I've got a 15-month-old and also building a business and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I don't have time to train anymore. I literally like 2 strength sessions a week, and I'm like, that's a win for me. And like a few other bits and pieces. Old me, it'd be like 4 strength sessions a week. Now I'm just like, nah.
2 spin classes, this, that, and the other. Yeah.
Oh yeah, teaching spin and everything else, and Barry's. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy.
Cool. Have we got any more questions? I think, should we get in one more? Yeah.
I don't know if I've got any more questions. My followers are really quiet on this one.
What was the other one I had?
It's like period progress.
Actually, Don, have you got a question sort of based on sort of any females that you've trained, that anything you want to talk about where you've like struggled or thought, hang on a minute, I don't know as much as I should, or yeah?
I think for me, it's the communication side of things. So do you find, like, when I'm talking to men, my personality is very, here's the problem, I'm very direct, kind of like with the solution, you need to do X, Y, Z. Whereas I find that this is me generalizing, but that doesn't seem to work very well with my female clients. Like, is there a specific way you go about kind of like giving feedback in the way that this needs to change? Just because I find to give the most recent example is I was having a lady who she's really struggling to get her steps up. So her average steps were something like 2,000 a day. So I was suggesting things like doing YouTube walking workouts when the kids were in bed, and things like just making sure that she kept her pedometers and watch on her, and just know it was a good 6-week period where things wouldn't improve, and I wasn't sure how to better get that information across about the importance of kind of like your activity level, because I just didn't want to pull down her food because she was already under eating under the food I was giving her. I was asking her to eat more than she was, but she was under eating, but then under moving, probably because she didn't have enough. Thinking about it now, it's probably she was not wanting to move because she was then under eating on the calories that I was giving her. So what would be kind of, if you had a client in that situation, how would you solve that?
I would just get them to, because the thing is, a jump from like 2,000 to 10, like the magical 10,000 steps, which is from a marketing campaign, is like massive. So I just get them to like do an extra like 500 steps a day or something like that, and just start it small. Because I think sometimes women, I don't know, for me, if I'm like going to do something, I'll then just, if I don't achieve it, I'm just like, I failed, fuck it, just give up, can't be bothered. It's like, so by maybe making it a smaller goal might help. I don't know.
Yeah. I find that women more so than men have very distinct personality types, in terms of you've got to know more about them before suggesting something or sort of giving it as more of a prescription. You've got women who will want perfectionists. What you give them, they will do, right? And that's at the expense of everything. So you've got to be careful with how you relay and drip feed that information. You've got others who you give them a goal, and in their mind, they've already tried this before and they've failed. So they've already failed before trying, so they don't try. And you've got to know the personality type, and you find out about their relationships with their families and themselves, what they enjoy doing, and look at how you can build habits off the back of where their enjoyment lies and the things that they're already doing. With steps, I always look at, right, they're fixed, and you'll know if that barrier comes up straight away, and it's like, we're not going to get anywhere. So it's like, what are you doing at the weekend? And like, oh, doing this, that, and the other. And I'd be like, if I knew they were going somewhere with family, I'd be like, oh, do you know about this route here? Or if you tried this, it's really nice to add on to it. So you're looking at ways in which you can help them manage themselves, but in a way that it sounds appealing, because it very much depends on the type of person that they are. Like, some of them, if it's pissing down with rain, like if it's the storms that we've had, and you set them a goal and they can't match it in the house, they'll be out. They'll have like a lassoed rope to a lamppost at the end of the street, pulling themselves there. They're hitting them steps. Other ones will just be like, oh, I can't fucking get it, I'm in the house. Oh, kids are eating Easter eggs that we got cheap. Oh, fuck it, I'll have one. Like, you've got to know who you're working with. And I find this more so with females than men. Yeah.
That's good.
Pretty much.
Basically, I need to take on a female trainer and have her sort out my ladies.
I mean, women get women, like,
and men get men.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do really enjoy training guys as well, though, because I can really push sort of my knowledge of strength training. But I find with women, I learn more about myself as a coach, and the language that I use, and the emotional connections, and just the general way you have to approach. And I think when you're, Emil know from coaching a group of females, this takes me back to my teaching. I'm differentiating here, there, everywhere. I'm like, right, you do this, breathe like this, do that, and you're like, bang, bang, bang. By the end of it, you're like, fucking hell, I am absolutely paggered. I'm done in, because it takes so much out of you to give each of them what they need. But in order to do your job and do it well and be the difference that is needed, you have to do that, because it's not a one size fits all for anyone.
No, women are so different. It's crazy. But that's why I like it.
Amazing.
Yes, keeps them on the toes.
So, Emily, thank you for all your time today. We've been on just over an hour.
Thanks for having me.
So, if the guys want to find out more about yourself or your business page, I can't remember what you called the farm gym or something like that.
Yeah, so we're the Barn KT9 is us.
Barn, that's it. Okay, so yeah. What was that? Sorry, I was talking over you.
That's all right. So we're the Barn KT9. We're based near Chessington in Surrey, or M25, pretty much.
Brilliant. So yes, if you guys want to check out Emily's profile over there, so is Instagram kind of like your main platform, or is there anything else that you'd want to?
Yeah, so Instagram, and then my brand is on_point_training. So that's kind of me. We've got a website as well, thebarnkt9.com. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it really. Haven't ventured into YouTube. We keep thinking about documenting our journey here because it's a little bit of a crazy one, but yeah, not done that yet.
If you're going to go into YouTube, I'd advise get a videographer. It's a little bit of expense, but it makes life so much easier because they just follow you around.
Yeah, my husband is one, so we're all right on that one.
Oh, fair enough. Cheaper then.
Yeah, free labour. Yeah. We love that.
And Rach, if the guys want to check out any of your pelvic health stuff, where can they find you?
I've recently changed my business name, so I'm on Instagram. Website's not sorted yet, but it's rs.strength.in.movement. That's on Instagram and on Facebook. That's got training. It's not just sort of pelvic health. This is what we do. It's about how to integrate this into your training, how to breathe effectively, how to look at modifying movements. So you are approaching everything from a health first perspective. But I just really like to say a huge thanks to Emily for coming on to this show, because this is a big passion project of mine as well. And I just feel like it diversifies the support that our listeners and viewers can give to the females in their life as well, approaching things with a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more in tune with how someone might be feeling or presenting on that day as well.
100%.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Congratulations if anyone's actually lasted this long through my shit rambles.
Better than them
guys,
McDonald's into Star Wars, Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Wars, Marvel, yeah. So yes, appreciate to anybody who's lasted this long through the podcast, for all our 5 listeners, and we will see you again next week.